Davante Adams brings basically exactly what you would want him to bring if you're a Raiders fan. He's someone who you can get the ball to quickly. He's someone who you can just throw it up if you have to. So even with their poor offensive line, sometimes they won't need to block for too long because Carr can just make a throw immediately. Adams is a tremendous talent. I think he's the best receiver in football, and I think he'll do great in the silver and black. Let's get into just why I feel so strongly about Davante Adams, as most people do. And first, let's talk about some Raiders tape, right? I mean, let's look at how he's going to fit into the offense. And one of the things that I think the Raiders really were lacking, especially when Ruggs went down and they didn't have a true number one option, is really going to be shown on a play like this, where it's Bryan Edwards who... Edwards is a solid player. Like, he's not a bad player by any means. So I'm not trying to sit here and say that, you know, he's the issue or anything. But is he someone who you put him outside the numbers, he can go up one-on-one against a corner and win consistently? No, not really. Is Adams someone who you can do that to? Absolutely. The way to play on your screen works is it's a cover 3 zone. You see Edwards' route, and watch what happens. Right when this play begins, you're going to see right here, notice how really this is an easy read for a corner to make. He reads the play quickly and is already breaking in. Edwards is not running any double move here. This is just what he is doing. Carr, that was his first read. He's already getting rid of the football, and at this split second, he realizes this isn't going to work. If I throw it now, it has a better chance of getting intercepted than it does caught. And if it's caught, it's only going for 4 yards right here. So if this was maybe let's say this was Davante Adams, realistically, the corner isn't going to come in as quickly because he has to be afraid of something else happening. But Edwards didn't do a spectacular, he did a fine job, but he kind of just ran his route, right? There was no deception. There was no helping himself out by making it seem as though there could be something different. And that's what Adams really does bring to the table. Derek Carr alertly reads the play and just throws it over both of their heads, which was a smart play by him. But this is just the hope that you can, you know, gain by adding a Davante Adams. Someone who you put him on the outside, they're just going to win more consistently, and it'll make things easier for someone like Edwards to maybe get more favorable matchups, so he's going up against easier talent. I think something like this is a good example of really what Adams can just bring to the entire Raiders offense. Just the entire offense changes with Adams. And I think it's worth mentioning, the Raiders still don't have a great offensive line, right? That's still an issue. We still have to put some more resources into that. If you're a Raiders fan, that's what you're saying. On this play, it's going to be a cover 1 blitz right here. So it's not just offensive line, but there's also a blitz coming. So you expect pressure to come relatively quickly, you know, just as is. Look at how right when this play begins, what you're going to see is a couple of things. So I've circled 3 different Raiders players, 2 in yellow, 1 in black. The 1 in black, that's Derek Carr's first read here. It's against Darren Waller. That's the guy who I've circled. So for Carr, if I'm being honest, you know, maybe one of the small critiques I would say about Carr, if you've been watching this channel for a while, you know I've always been a big Carr defender. He got way too much criticism, especially early on in his career, I thought, but nonetheless, one of the things you see is that Carr, you know, he's hoping for Waller to get open, which, again, there's worse flaws to have as a quarterback than staring down Darren Waller a bit too much. Like, Waller does get open a good amount. He is still a tight end, though, so he's not going to get open, like, with the consistency of a true number 1 receiver just because of the position. So on this play, you see that Waller isn't really open, but Carr was sticking on him. Now, there are 2 other players that are open, so if Carr got to his second read quicker, he would have made the throw and they could have gained some yards potentially. That is true, and this is where I think the receiver versus offensive line conversation begins. A good offensive line will get you to that second read quicker, right? That's just what happens. However, if Darren Waller was open on this play, it wouldn't matter about the offensive line because Carr would have already gotten rid of the football. And so that's kind of the argument with Davante Adams, is Adams is going to protect Carr by just getting open quickly. As you see, Carr ends up losing the football here, and that was a big play in that football game. Who knows? That might have been the difference right there in that football game. So, again, you get Adams who can be open more consistently. That can then start to allow for these plays to happen less. And, you know, really, sacks aren't just a offensive line stat. They're partially a quarterback stat, and they're partially a wide receiver stat. Those all work together. Like, this one's another example of kind of a similar thing, where, again, it's going to be Darren Waller as his first option. And listen, Darren Waller gets open plenty, but that's not really why I'm talking about him right now. It's more so that when he's the first option and he is a tight end, it can make things difficult. And here's you see the route on your screen and watch what happens. So very quickly into this play, Carr takes the snap and he looks over, and Waller is not yet getting open, which again, it's fine. Like, we're a little bit over 2 seconds into the play, so like, you don't have too much longer if you're Derek Carr to make this throw. You can't really blame Waller for not being open yet. At this spot, what do? You don't know if he's going to get open. He actually is, but you don't know that just by looking at the screen right here. So what can Carr do? Carr ends up just taking a sack right there. So again, if that was Adams who got open quicker, well, then you would have an immediate opening right there. Or perhaps you're getting easier matchups for Waller because Adams is getting double teamed. Something like that happens as well. But it makes your first read open more frequently, which can then protect the quarterback. It's a very real thing. Like going over here now to show some Davante Adams stuff, this is actually a perfect example of what I'm truly talking about, where you see Davante Adams, you see the way this play can work, right? Rodgers goes up to the line. You can tell it's zone coverage of some kind. Rodgers or Carr would easily be able to tell this. It's a very simple read. Quite frankly, basically every quarterback in the NFL would probably be able to read this and see its cover too. Maybe not Josh Rosen. Everyone else, I feel pretty confident, would be able to make this read. I'm not sure why I threw that ricochet shot at Josh Rosen. Rosen, if you're watching this, I apologize. But anyways, what we see here is you can see how this play can work, right? You see where Adams' route could get open in that little bubble in coverage right here. So let's play this out in two different ways. Before we even get into the play, how would we view this? First, let's say that this is, again, let's just say it's Bryan Edwards again. So, okay, solid receiver, could end up getting open. What do you have to do if you're a quarterback? You have to look at it, make the read, and then determine, okay, is he open enough that I feel comfortable making this throw through a relatively tight window? Now, what would you do if you're in this situation that we're actually about to show, where it is Davante Adams? Well, let's see what Aaron Rodgers does. Rodgers takes the snap and basically immediately just throws it to Adams. He didn't know if Adams was going to get open, but he did know Adams was going to get open because Adams gets open. That's what he does. So this is the philosophy, and this is what he can do. So you might think, well, okay, that's great, they got a receiver, but their biggest weakness was offensive line on the offensive side of the ball. And listen, it's still going to hurt you. There's no denying that in both the passing game and in the running game. But I think this is the great example of showing just how adding a Davante Adams, it'll just make it easier. You won't have to worry about getting hit too much because you'll get rid of the ball quicker, and Carr already gets rid of the ball pretty quickly, so it's a great fit. Obviously, Adams is going to get open more consistently, which will just help in terms of getting you more completions as opposed to incompletions. That's the other obvious aspect, but I kind of want to talk about it more broadly and how it'll help the entire Raiders team, not just the actual yards that Adams brings. There's so much extra value that a true number one guy brings to the table for a team like the Raiders, and they haven't really had that. I mean, Michael Crabtree was good, but he didn't get the gravity that Davante Adams did by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, I love the trade from the Raiders' perspective. I know you gave up a bit. I know you gave up a first and second and a ton of cap space, but for a dominant wide receiver, I'm willing to take that chance. I just am. That's how I feel about it, especially how, the joke has been made, and I think it's a little bit fair of, we've seen how the Raiders draft in first rounds as of late. Admittedly, different regime now. We'll see how that goes. It's not really, the same, but still, it should be very fascinating. So yeah, that's what I think about all this. Let me know in the comments below, what are your thoughts on this trade? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.